Furthermore, the Venerable Atisha said, wherever one severs attachment, one abides unattached and at ease. With attachment, one cannot attain fortunate rebirth, and the life of liberation is also cut off. No matter towards whom, if you have not eliminated attachment, then it is impossible to have the opportunity to abide in peace. And if you harbor attachment, you cannot attain a human or heavenly rebirth, and at the same time, you sever the wisdom life of liberation. The Venerable also further admonished fellow practitioners, all forms of craving are like drinking salt water. There is never any satisfaction, so one must cultivate a pure mind and few desires. In fact, attachment truly is like this. The more you indulge, the more attached you become. The more you indulge, the more attached you become. This is its nature, just like drinking salt water. The more salt water you drink, the thirstier you get. There's nothing you can do about it. The most supreme sign of accomplishment is that your attachment and desire gradually diminish. When we practice, some people say, oh, I have seen the Yidam, I have experienced the warmth stage, I have realized Dzogchen. You feel that you have experienced the warmth stage yourself. But as for these signs of accomplishment, if they become more and more extraordinary, your attachment and desire will become less and less. If your realization keeps getting higher, it must be that your attachment and desire are decreasing. If your realization keeps getting lower, your attachment and desire will only grow stronger. So generally we can also observe this ourselves. Some people think they have attained a bit of realization, a bit of awakening, if that's the case. Just look at how much attachment they have toward anything. If their attachment is still very strong, you can just say, forget it, you shouldn't talk about realization yet. Just look at your attachment. In this way, it's like a mirror. It can reflect whether this person truly has any realization or not, whether they really have any signs of accomplishment. If there are signs of accomplishment, then you can see it clearly. I've mentioned before, I've met some practitioners who said that they truly have no attachment or anger at all. Later, I asked other people and they confirmed it. They said this person never argues with others and never gets angry. There really are such people. I've met a few. At first they had a lot of afflictions, but gradually through practice, all the manifestations of attachment and anger in their own mind stream were completely cut off. They said the seeds might still be there, but now they truly can't give rise to any afflictions at all. Actually, this is very good. People who don't practice well get upset many times a day, over and over again. Wasn't there someone called Jachin in the past? The Brahmin Jachin, mentioned in the words of my perfect teacher, would put a stone aside whenever he had a negative thought, and put a stone aside whenever he had a positive thought. At first there were more negative thoughts. Later it was all positive thoughts, with no negative ones left. So you can also observe yourself in this way. Venerable Puchongwa also said, compared to the happiness that comes from desire, the happiness from letting go of desire is even greater. Everyone understands this, right? For us ordinary people, we rely on desire to find happiness. But actually, if you truly let go of all worldly desire, you will find yourself to be even happier and more content. Isn't it just like what was said in the letter to a friend? If we scratch an itch, we feel a bit of pleasure. But isn't it even better if you don't feel itchy at all? Wouldn't that be even more enjoyable? Many monastics nowadays are like this too. Some people think that, can you monastics really survive? Is it really possible? Can you truly let go of desire? But in reality, the more you give in to desire, the less satisfied you become and the more suffering you experience. If you don't have this kind of desire, then everything is completely fine. And after letting go of desire, you become even happier. Sometimes we think some of the monastics here, if they hadn't become monastics, who knows how many times they would have cried. Because after ordaining, maybe they've never cried over desire again. Sometimes from the outside, others might think, you're so pitiful. You have no hair, no romantic love. It really seems like you have nowhere else to turn. You must be the most miserable person in the world. But you don't know if you could truly enter their inner world. Of course, among monastics, not all of them are necessarily good monastics. But if someone is a good monastic or a lay person who upholds the 5 precepts, in that case, they themselves should have a certain discipline in their life. And they also understand the nature of this path. At this time, they also have their own share of happiness. This is also what Geshe Potoa said. If you indulge in sensual pleasures without ever feeling satisfied, the result is that you will inevitably suffer the pains of samsara and the lower realms. If you never feel content and keep indulging in sensual pleasures, you will definitely fall into the lower realms and experience suffering. Geshe Karopa also said, it is craving that prevents you from escaping samsara. Therefore, it is unequivocally clear that not recognizing craving as a significant fault or a fundamental impediment is indeed a profoundly mistaken and misguided path. Nowadays, many people in the West think that craving is very important. They believe that without craving, without passion, there would be no progress, no development, no striving, and so on. But this kind of craving in reality, brings suffering to oneself, which perhaps they have not examined. Many people feel that if you don't get rid of craving, then you have no chance at liberation. You are definitely on the wrong path. Venerable Nabhava also said the same thing. If you do not cut off craving through forceful means, you cannot sever the vine of sensual pleasures. If we do not use forceful methods, didn't we talk about this the other day? When monastics get up in the morning, they should touch their heads 3 times, asking themselves, why did I become a monk like this? Since I have already become a monk, why am I still like this? If you haven't cut this off, then you cannot sever the vine of worldly sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches. The vine of sensual pleasures, this vine cannot be dealt with. Therefore, one should abandon all wealth and possessions as if spitting out saliva. In reality, the more people crave, the more. Recently, I saw a news story that said there was a person who used to be the secretary of the Political and Legal Affairs Commission. He embezzled 440 million yuan. It seems this was in a place in northeast China recently. He was recently sentenced. Actually, even if someone has over 400 million, they probably can't really enjoy it. But nowadays, when it comes to celebrities, even a single fine can be tens of billions or even hundreds of billions. So if you look at it this way, a corrupt official embezzling 400 million doesn't seem like much. In the past, a few million or tens of millions was considered a huge amount, but now it's all calculated in the billions. Whether it's fines or embezzlement, it's always billions and billions now. In the past, in the monastic precepts, when we first came to the academy, we used to calculate things in terms of 50 cents or 10 cents. Now, people in the world don't even bother counting 50 cents anymore. Everything is meticulously calculated in billions of units. The Venerable Nayarepa once sagely said, and it is a statement that holds profound truth, regard worldly pleasures as if they were a pit of burning embers. These worldly pleasures, the pleasures of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, may look like a lush, green, and especially beautiful river. But once you get there, you end up trapped in it. Your whole body and mind, your skin and flesh, are completely burned away. That's exactly what a pit of burning embers is like. And in fact, it's the same with worldly pleasures. Whether it's wealth or beauty, many people at first are amazed and very curious about them, or they think it must be something very joyful. But what you don't realize is that when you truly get involved in it, it might burn you so badly that even your bones and flesh are separated. There's really no way to attain liberation. Worldly pleasures truly are like this. If your greed is especially excessive, this will be the final outcome. Venerable Shabkar also said, if you don't feel aversion to greed in your heart, then you won't be able to find happiness in this life or the next. You must develop a sense of aversion toward greed. If you don't, then happiness in this life and the next is impossible. But if you do feel aversion to greed, then you won't need to seek happiness. If you see greed as a bad thing, if you have this kind of mindset, then even if you don't go looking for happiness, it will come to you quite naturally. But perhaps our current education system isn't really like this either, in actual practice. Greed is considered the greatest source of happiness in our world. This includes all of the media and advertising that we consume. What kind of education have we truly received since our childhood? Everyone should be clear about this. Why do so many people keep getting divorced nowadays? They keep getting married, then divorced, then married again, and divorced again. Actually, what they're thinking is they should find the greatest happiness in so-called love, according to what the media says. But when they actually interact with someone, oh, it's not like that. This person can't bring me happiness. Maybe it's someone else who can bring me happiness. Then when they meet someone else, it's the same story. They're all selfish people. So in the end, no matter how many times they change partners, the profound happiness or absolute perfection they envision and strive for is, regrettably, never truly attained or fully realized. In fact, this is indeed related to the kind of messaging and values we promote. There really is a certain connection. It is also said that when you are able to dispel excessive thoughts of desire, if you can rid yourself of excessive thoughts about desire, that is the beginning of true happiness. If you start to cut off all sorts of thoughts related to desire, if you begin to break them off, then your real happiness has already begun. This is a kind of key point, a pith instruction. Venerable Bodhisattva Tokme Sangpo also said, attachment to wealth, relatives, friends and servants is like an elephant trapped in the mud. Some are attached to possessions, some are attached to family and companions. In fact, it's just like an elephant stuck in the mud. An elephant trapped in the mud, or like a fish lured by a single hook in the end, just for a tasty morsel. It gives up its life. It's the same thing. If you can be content with what you have, your body and mind will be happier, and your study, contemplation, and practice will flourish. If we feel that whatever we have right now, it's enough, if we have this kind of contentment, then our body and mind will also be happy, and our study, contemplation, and practice will also grow. There won't be the suffering of accumulating wealth, protecting wealth, or losing wealth. Everyone knows this. Contentment makes even the poor feel rich. If you are content, even if you are poor, you are still wealthy. And he himself also profoundly relies on contentment and having very few desires. What we often tend to get in this world may be merely fake, superficial things. Many people have never obtained the real things. For example, the happiness of contentment. This is real, but this is something we often fail to attain. The happiness from greed is fake. But in our value system, this is seen as a kind of everlasting happiness. But actually here, just as it is said in the treatise on praise of discipline, if it's a fleeting moment of happiness, people still make many sacrifices of their own for it. So sometimes when we see the profound teachings of the great masters of the past, when we encounter these deeply meaningful instructions, we can also understand how we ourselves should practice. All right, that's all for today.
Kirgana jirano chupai Jupun zonen droja Bandarangara Badna Sodargye Bandarangara Badna Sodargye Bandarangara Badna Sodargye